too crazy to handle. It hadn't happened yet, which was a good thing for Peter since he'd never been a fighter. But no, these were 16-year-old girls bubbling at length over how much they loved the Black Cat and how they thought Felicia Hardy was just the coolest character on television. Mary Jane thanked them warmly, not blowing them off as another celebrity might have done, but actually chatting, asking their names and what schools they went to, and talking to them about the various other actors on the show. Until May, jealous at how much attention her mommy was getting, began to fuss. Then Mary Jane immediately excused herself to pick up her daughter, cooing in her ear and playing the whoopsie game that never failed to make May forget she was upset. At which point, the tallest of the three teenage girls surprised Peter by saying, "What about you, mister? Are you an actor too?" Peter was embarrassed. "Well, actually no. I'm a scientist." Mary Jane, who now bore little May on her shoulders, broke in. "A great scientist." "Wow, what kind of science do you do?" "Biochemistry," said Peter. "Sounds complicated," the tall girl said. "And important," Mary Jane said. "My hubby's one of the most brilliant men in his field." Peter found himself turning red at that. Mary Jane was overstating the case. As far as he was concerned, he was only beginning to establish his reputation, but the federal government, led by a science-friendly President Sagan, had just shown what seemed an excessive amount of faith in him by giving him an open-ended grant to study the mutagenic effects of increased solar radiation. Starting Monday morning, he'd be able to devote himself to cutting-edge research. He already had some ideas about using the controlled release of radiation to transfer genetic characteristics from one organism to another, though it would probably be a long time before he worked up the nerve to try it on anything more advanced than simple arachnids. But that was a far cry from considering himself a celebrity, and when his wife started going off about his supposed brilliance, he had to protest. "Honey," she smiled mischievously and kissed him. "He also has one of the cutest blushes in the business, doesn't he?" The tall girl, enjoying herself, said, "I think so," which of course made Peter blush all over again. He ended up giving away a few autographs himself. "That was very naughty of you," he scolded Mary Jane as soon as the three girls were out of earshot. She laughed saucily as she checked on little May, now asleep, and began to push the stroller in the direction of the sea lions. "I keep telling you, Tiger, this modesty thing of yours has got to go. Why do you think you got this project instead of somebody like Bruce Banner or Otto Octavius?" "Because I work cheap," Peter guessed. She slapped his arm. "No, because the powers that be asked everybody whose opinions they respected and found out what I knew the first time I met you, that you're about 50 times better than you think you are. They knew that there wasn't anybody else in the field, even Octavius, who could take this project as far as they want to take it. And they knew that if there was anybody smart and dependable enough to trust with power of decision on a project they clearly consider top priority, let alone creative enough to make it worth the funding, it was you. So stop being surprised when I act proud of you, because you deserve it. And as soon as we get home, I'm going to remind you of that all over again." Peter was awed. "When was the last time I told you I love you?" "About an hour ago, but you can say it again if you want to." "I love you." They kissed. It was the best of all possible worlds, and Peter Parker was living the best of all possible lives. He was married to the greatest woman in the world, he had a daughter who amazed him anew every single day, and he was about to embark upon a project with the potential to yield the most important scientific advances since the astonishing discoveries made by the crew of the Space Shuttle Challenger. Nothing could possibly ruin it. But then, something did. It was a little like seeing a cloud passing over the sun. It was a little like hearing the squeal of brakes when he stepped off the curb without first checking for traffic. It was a little like feeling an icicle stabbing him at the base of his spine. It was a little like all these things, and it was worse, because in that first instant, when all around them the animals in their cages began to wail in total elemental terror, part of him already knew, as they did, that the best of all possible worlds had just ended. As the crowds around them rumbled with the beginnings of panic, Peter looked up at the sky and saw that the sun had disappeared. It had been swallowed whole by a vast, formless darkness, which even now billowed across the sky, swallowing up all traces of warmth and light.